Good evening. Good evening. Hello. Good evening. Good evening, all students. Today, the lecture is going to be on the topic of obligations of the seller under the UN Convention on Contracts for the International Sales of Goods. Okay, 1980. We are still in the session. Okay, on the session on the CISG. Okay, I hope that you now become accustomed to the use of the word CISG. Okay, so you're mindful that when I say CISG, okay, that is the UN Convention on Contracts for International Sales of Goods. Okay, so we are going to spend, I think, that means 2 more sessions, okay, on this topic. Okay, so if you look at the topic on the CISG, we can see that okay the topics, the matters which fall within the scope of the application of the CISG are as follows. The ones which you now see on screen. Okay, the first, the formation of contract. Okay, we have dealt with this one. Okay, I think that we have dealt with this one during our last lecture. Okay, and today, this evening, okay, we are going to discuss the obligations of the parties, obligations of the seller, and the obligation of the buyer. But I'm not quite sure whether Tom is, is going to permit us to also talk about, obligations of the buyer. Okay, so probably the lecture will be focused. Okay, the lecture will be focused on the obligations of the seller. If you understand the obligations of the seller, then you will also understand the obligations of the buyer, because the understanding of the obligation of the seller will give you a reflection of the obligations of the buyer as well. Okay, so what will also be included in this lecture is the passing of risk. Okay, the rule in the CISG regarding the passing of risk. Okay, and the lecture next week will be focus on breach and remedies, okay, and also exception of liability. Okay, so I think that we will spend 2 more times on the CISG, the lecture today, okay, and the lecture next week. Okay, so we will begin the lecture this week. Okay, as we have seen, the first topic for this evening, it is the obligations of the seller. Okay, as I have mentioned, okay, we should talk about the obligations of the parties, covering both obligations of the seller and obligations of the buyer. But if we discuss the obligations of the seller, then you again will understand the obligations of the buyer as well. Okay, so the CISG is very good in the sense that it will begin with giving us an overview, okay, of the matter. Okay, the matter which we are discussing now, it is obligations of the seller. Okay, and if you look at Article 30, Article 30 gives us an overview, okay, of the obligations of the seller. According to Article 30, the seller must deliver the goods, hand over any documents relating to the goods. Okay, and transfer the property in the goods as required by the contract and this convention. Okay, if we analyze, okay, what is said in the Article 30, we can see that there are indeed 3 principal obligations regarding the obligation of the seller. Okay, first, the obligation to deliver the goods, and secondly, the obligation to hand over any documents relating to the goods, and finally, the obligation to transfer the property in the goods. Okay, when the CISG uses the word property, this means the ownership. Okay, property in the goods, that means the ownership in the goods. Okay, so these are the 3 main obligations, okay, to be dealt with by the Article 30. Okay, and after giving us an overview of the obligations of the seller, then the next or the following provisions will give us an elaboration upon the each obligation. Okay, the obligation to deliver the goods, the obligation to hand over any documents relating to the goods, and the obligation to transfer the property in the goods. Okay, but before going to explore that, let me just tell you that in addition to the provisions of the CISG, okay, in addition to the main obligations which are addressed, okay, by Section 30, we should be mindful that there may be some other obligations outside the CISG, okay, where are the obligations outside the CISG from, okay? It may be from, as we can see, it may be from usages and practices. If we look at Article 9, Article 9 also recognizes that usage and practices obligations may be from usage and practices. Okay, according to Article 9 of the CISG, okay, there may be usage and practices which are expressly agreed, and they may be also the usage which is regarded by law as impliedly agreed, even though the parties have not expressly agreed on such usage. Okay, so the distinction between the expressly agreed usage and practices and the usage which is impliedly agreed can be seen in Article 9(1) and 9(2). Okay, if you look at 9(1), 9(1) provides as follows: the parties are bound by any usage to which they have agreed, or by any the practices which they have established between themselves. Okay, so apparently, okay, the Article 9(1) here refer to usage or practices expressly agreed or established between parties. But if we go on to consider Article 9(2), okay, 9(2) provides as follows: the parties are considered to have impliedly made applicable to their contract or its formation a usage of which the parties knew or ought to have known, and which in international trade is widely known to and regularly observed by parties to contracts of the type involved in the particular trade concerned. Okay, so if we look at what is said in Article 9(2) carefully, we can see that in order for the usage to be considered as part of the contract, by way of implication, it must be what? It must be the usage which comes to the knowledge, the knowledge of the parties to this contract. First of all, it must be known, it must be known to the parties of this contract, or the parties to this contract ought to have known, of the usage. And not only that, not only the usage of the parties to this contract, it must be also widely known to, it must be widely known to parties to contract of the type involved in the particular trade concerned. This is not the knowledge of the party A and B, but it is the knowledge. It is the knowledge of all parties in the contract of the type involved. And put simply, it must be known to parties in the same type of contracts in the particular trade concerned. And in addition to being known, being widely known to the parties to the contract of the type involved in the particular trade concerned, it must be also regularly observed by those parties. By parties to contracts of the type involved in the particular trade concerned. So when these conditions are met, so usage can also be considered as part of the contract. Even though the parties A party A and party B to this contract, okay, they have not agreed to that usage, okay, but the CISG regards that usage has become part of the contract because the party to this agreement, okay, to this contract have been considered to what? They are considered to have been agreed, okay, to that usage by way of implication, okay. So it is not, the usage which is expressly agreed upon by the parties, but it is the usage which is implicitly, okay, which is implicitly agreed by the parties, okay. So when the CISG takes recognition of the usage or practice as on say the being part of the contract, that is not something new because you can also say the same thing even elsewhere. Okay, for instance, in the unilateral principles of international commercial contracts. Okay, if you look at the unilateral principles, you can also see a provision on the uses or practices which are expressly agreed upon or expressly established between the parties, and also the usage which is not agreed upon by the party expressly, but it is widely known, okay, and legally observed, by the parties, okay. So this is something which we see in the Article 9 of the CISG, right? So now back to the provision of the Article what? Just now, Article 30. Article 30. Remember which gives us an overview of the obligations of the seller. Okay. Again, according to an overview of the obligations of the seller, okay, these are three main obligations: the obligation to deliver the goods, the obligation to hand over any document relating to the goods, and the obligation to transfer the property in the goods. Okay, we now will begin with the first obligation. Okay, the obligation to deliver the goods, and after that we will look at the obligation to hand over the documents relating to the goods. Okay, the obligation to deliver the goods, it is contained in Articles 31 to Article 33 of the CISG. When we talk about the obligation to deliver the goods, okay, there are three main issues. Okay, the first one is the nature of delivery. The second one is the time of delivery, and the most important one, perhaps, it is the conformity of the goods. Okay, the goods to be delivered under the contract must conform, okay, with the contract. Okay, so we will talk about all of this at great length. Okay, now we begin with the nature of delivery. Okay, how can the goods be delivered? Okay, in order for delivery to be considered, as duly made. Okay, how can the delivery be made? Okay, the rules are set in Article 31. Article 31 distinguishes the nature of delivery into two situations. The first one is where the contract of sale involves the carriage of the goods. And the other one, it is where the contract of sale does not involve the carriage of the goods. Okay, this is what is seen in Article 31. Okay, look at the rules which are contained in this Article 31. Okay, if you look at the wording of Article 31, this is the wording. Okay, but I'm not going to just read the wording. Okay, in full detail. Okay, we are going to just give you this picture in order for you to understand the rules which are contained in Article 31. Okay, as I have mentioned, okay, Article 31 distinguishes or makes distinction into two scenarios. The first scenario, it is the one where the contract of sale involves the carriage of the goods, and the second one, it is okay, where the contract of sale does not involve the carriage of the goods, okay. So with respect to the scenario in which the sale, okay, the sale involves carriage, in this case, Article 31, okay, 31A, okay, provides the rule that the delivery can be made by handing the goods over to the first carrier. Okay, so as soon as the seller hands over the goods, okay, to the first carrier, that means that the seller has duly fulfilled the obligation to deliver the goods. Okay, the key wording is hand over the goods, okay, to the first carrier. Okay, so if the contract consent, involves, okay, the carriage, then once the seller hands the goods to the first carrier, the seller has duly fulfilled the obligation to deliver the goods. That means that from then on, if there is any damage to the goods, or if there is any loss of the goods, then the seller will not be liable for that damage or for that loss anymore, because the seller has duly, okay, and perfectly fulfilled the obligation to deliver the goods, okay, by just handing the goods over to the first carrier. Okay, so in this case, in the event where the goods are damaged or lost in any way, okay, then the buyer cannot have any recourse against the seller. Okay, so the buyer will have to, they will have to resort to remedies against whom? Against when the person's concerned. Okay, probably the carrier. If the carrier caused damage to the goods, then the carrier will have to be liable. So in this case, the buyer may have recourse against the buyer. Okay, so this is what is clearly expressed in the article 31, okay, the 31A, okay, where the contract of sale involves carriage. Okay, once the seller hands the goods, okay, to the first carrier, the seller just has duly performed the obligation to deliver the goods. Okay, in fact, when we say that once the seller delivers the good to the first carrier, then the seller has duly discharged his obligation to deliver the goods, and the seller will no longer be liable, okay, for any damage to the goods or the loss of the goods. Okay, the loss or the damage will have to be borne by the buyer. That rule seems to be, okay, in line with the rule of passing of risk. Because if you look at the rules regarding the passing of risk, which is the rule contained in Article 67(1), okay, you will see that the consequence will be in the same line. Okay, according to Article 67(1), okay, if the contract of sale involves carriage of the goods, and the seller is not bound to hand them over at any particular place, the risk passes to the buyer when the goods are handed over to the first carrier. See, so according to Article 67(1), right, 67(1), once the seller just hand over the goods to the first carrier, in that case, okay, once the seller has done so, i.e. handing over the goods to the first carrier, then the risk of loss or the risk of damage passes to the buyer. Okay, if the goods are damaged or the goods are lost, then the buyer will have to bear that damage or that loss, simply because the risk has already passed. Okay, the risk has passed to the buyer. Okay, so the rules, okay, the rule with respect to the duty to deliver the goods in the case where the contract of sale involves carriage, okay, they seem to be in line with the rule regarding the passing of the risk. Okay, now we are coming to the second scenario. Remember that the second scenario, it is the case where the goods, okay, is it the case where the contract of sale, okay, the contract of sale does not involve the carriage of the goods, where the contract of sale does not involve, the carriage, then how is the delivery made? Okay, according to Article 31. Right. In this case, according to Article 31, okay, the delivery will be made by placing the goods at the buyer's disposal. Placing the goods at the buyer disposal. Okay, this is in the Article 31, the B. Okay, 31 the B and 31 C. Right. So in this case, where the contract does not involve the carriage, you have to remember that if the contract involved, the carriage, then that is a case falling under Article 31 A. So if the goods, if the contract of sale does not involve the carriage of the goods, that is the case falling under Article 31B or 31C, as the case may be. Okay. Again, the rule is that the delivery will be conducted, or delivery will take place when the seller places the goods at the buyer disposal. Okay. In this case, we will have to distinguish, and we will have to split into three main cases, three sub-cases. Okay, the first one is that, okay, the goods which are sold, they are specific goods. They are specific goods, okay, and they are specific goods at a particular place known to the parties. In that case, Article 31B, Article 31B says that delivery will take place when the seller places the goods at the buyer disposal at that place. At the place known to the party, the place, okay, the place known to the party. Okay. So A and B, they sell the goods, which are specific goods, and A and B know the place at which those specific goods are. In that case, okay, according to Article 31B, delivery will have to be made by the seller placing the goods, okay, at the buyer's disposal at the place known to the party, at that particular place known to the parties. What about what about the case where it is a sale of the goods which are not yet specific, they are just unidentified goods. But those unidentified goods can be drawn from a specific stock at a particular place known to the parties. In that case, even though it is a sale of it is a sale of unidentified goods, but they are to be drawn from a specific stock at a place which is known to the parties. So in this case, delivery will have to be made by the seller placing the goods at the buyer's disposal at that place as well. Right. And the last scenario is this. It is a sale of unidentified goods to be manufactured or to be produced. They are not unidentified goods to be drawn from a specific stock, but they are unidentified goods, okay, to be manufactured or to be produced. But the place of manufacture or the place of production is known to the parties. In this case, okay, according to the Article 31B, delivery will have to be made by the seller placing the goods at the buyer's disposal at that place as well. Right. So this is the rule, okay, contained in Article 31B. Right. 31B. Right. Now, what about it is a case where the contract does not involve the carriage, but they are not okay. They are not the case of the sale of specific goods. They are not the case. They are not the case of the sale of specific goods or unidentified goods which are at any particular place known to the parties. Maybe the place, okay, it is not known to the party, even though they are specific goods, even though they are unidentified goods to be drawn from a specific stock, or maybe they are the unidentified goods to be manufactured or to be produced, but the place where the goods are, the place where the stock, the place where the stock is, the place where what, the place where the manufacture or production, okay, is going to be made, it is unknown. Okay, so in this case, CISG Article 31C provides for the rule. According to Article 31C, in this case, the delivery will have to be made by placing the goods at the buyer's disposal at the place where the seller had his place of business, put simply in this case. Okay, in the case where the contract does not involve the carriage, okay, and the place is not known to the parties, in this case, the delivery will be made by the seller placing the goods at the buyer's disposal at the seller's place of business at the time of the conclusion of the contract. Okay, I think that been the rules which are contained in Article 31. Okay, that they are not so complicated. Okay, if you try to analyze this, it seems to be quite clear. Okay, so now according to Article 31, okay, you see these expressions. You see that these expressions a lot. Okay, the expression placing the goods at the buyer's disposal. Okay, then what does it mean? What does the expression placing the goods at the buyer's disposal mean? Okay, in this case, okay, usually the meaning of this one is that the seller will have to do everything which is necessary for the buyer to be able to take possession. So the buyer, when the buyer has done everything which is necessary for the buyer to be able to take possession of the goods, that means that the seller has placed the goods at the buyer's disposal. Okay, the seller has done everything which is necessary for the buyer to take possession. Okay, apart from that, nothing is necessary to be done anymore. Okay, so once everything which is necessary for the buyer to take possession of the goods, okay, is done. From then on, okay, we can say that the seller has already placed the goods at the buyer's disposal. Hence, okay, the due delivery under the CISG. Okay, well, when we have come across the expression placing the goods at the buyer's disposal, this is not anything new at all. We can see this even in the laws of many countries, including in Thai law. Okay, before going to Thai law, let me just have a check. Okay, at the screen to make sure that everything seems to be all right. Okay, now I am recording my lecture. Okay, so I try to make sure that the recording process is fine. Okay, and it is not interrupted by any unexpected situation. Okay, oh, and now I see that the video seems to be fine. Okay, now we have recorded this lecture for about half an hour. Okay, so that everything seems to be going on very, very well. Okay, very, very well. Okay, so now back to our lecture. Okay, we have talked about the nature of delivery. Okay, remember Article 31, okay, sets the rules for delivery. Okay, so the nature of the delivery under the Article 31, we have seen that, and we have seen also that when we deal with the case where the contract of sale does not involve the carriage. Okay, the rules under Article 31. Okay, the rules under Article 31 is focused on the act of placing the goods at the buyer's disposal. Okay, and we have seen the meaning of this expression. Okay, and I have just told you that okay, this is not anything new because we also see the placing the goods under the buyer disposal rule even in the laws of many countries, including in Thai law. In Thailand, if we look at the section 462 and 463, we will see the rules concerning delivery. Okay, according to 462, okay, the delivery may be made by doing anything which has the effect of placing the property, which is used in the word property which is used in section 462. That's mean the goods. Okay, not the ownership. Okay, but in the CISG, okay, when CISG mentions the word property, that means the ownership, not the goods. Okay, so back to the 462 of the Civil and Commercial Code of Thailand. Delivery may be made by doing anything which has the effect of placing the property, placing the goods, okay, at the buyer's disposal. See, so this is something similar to what we have seen in the Article 31 of CISG, and also Section 463 goes on to state the rule as follows. If the contract provides that the property, again the property here, it is the goods, okay. If the contract provides that the property sold shall be sent from one place to another, then delivery takes place at the moment when the property is delivered to the carrier. See, so when the contract involves the carriage of the goods from one place to another, then according to section 463, delivery take place at the moment when the goods, okay, are delivered to the carrier. Okay, this is also something close to what we have seen in Article 31 of the CISG. Okay. Now, when we have seen the rule regarding the nature of delivery, now we are moving forward to the rule with respect to the term of delivery. Of course, normally, okay, everything is going to be set by the contract. The parties to the contract enjoy what is known as the party autonomy. But the freedom of contract, okay, they can just set the rules, okay. They can just set the rules by their own agreement. If they agree on something, then the agreement between the parties will even prevail the law. Okay, remember the agreements between the parties will constitute the droit de partie, or the law of the parties, okay, which take precedence over what the law says, okay. So the Article 33 also recognizes the party autonomy. Okay, according to Article 33, the seller must deliver the goods, okay, at the date or in a period of time fixed by the contract. Okay, so it may be the fixed date or it may be the fixed period of time. Okay, we can see the example from with respect to the fixed date or the fixed period of time, that seem to be something quite clear. But one thing which we need to say, it is in relation to the fixed period of time when party A and party B, okay, when A and B, who are the parties to a contract of sale, okay, when they fix a period of time for delivery, that means that the seller can deliver the goods at any time within that period of time. We can see this example. Let's suppose that the contract provides that the seller will have to deliver the goods until the end of December. That means that the seller will have, the seller can just deliver at any time until the end of December. The seller may deliver on, the 1st December, 2nd December, up to 31st of December. Or if the contract of sale provides that the seller will have to deliver in 1993, okay, to 1994. In fact, this is a real case which can be drawn, from the database set by, the Untitled, okay, the database of cases, okay, the database which is prepared by Untitled, okay. In one case, when the contract of sale provides that the seller would have to make delivery in 1993 to 1994. That means that the seller could deliver at any time between the 1st January 1993 and 31st December 1994, from the first day up to the last day, okay, within the period which is fixed by the party, okay. So back to 33. Of course, 33, is founded upon the party autonomy rule. The parties to the contract may fix the date or the period of time, but in some cases, the parties may not set, the fixed date or the fixed period of time, but the date or the period of time can be determinable from the contract. Okay. Article 33 also, also takes recognition of this possibility. Okay. Sometimes, the date or the period of time, the date or the period of time is not fixed by the party, but it is determinable by the party. Sorry, it is determinable from the contract. When Article 33, okay, says that it is determinable, okay, from the contract, okay, that means that it can be just inferred from the contract. How can we make inference from the contract? Well, okay, in some cases, it can be inferred from usage or practice. Okay, in the some scenarios, okay, the parties may have usage practice. Remember, usage practice can also be part of the contract. Okay, remember Article 9, which we have discussed a while ago, and sometimes it can be inferred from circumstances of the case. We have some examples here. In one case, when the contract of sale provides that delivery, okay, the delivery will have to be made after the opening of a letter of credit. Okay, using this expression, okay, when the parties use this expression, we can infer from this that delivery would have to be made on the date following the opening of the LC. Right. Or similarly, if the contract requires the delivery to be made at the request of the buyer, this expression conveys the inference that the date of delivery, it is the date requested by the buyer. So this is the date of delivery, not fixed by the party, but determinable from the contract. It may be, determinable from, circumstances of the case. Okay, you can see many cases in which, the dates or the periods of time for delivery can be inferred from some circumstances of the case. Okay, one example, it is the case, the cloud case, CLOUT case. I think that I have told you in the last week about, the CLOUT case, It's cloud case number 338. Okay, it provides a very good example as well. Now, when we have seen, when we have worked out the time of delivery, if the seller does not deliver the goods within the time of delivery, that means that constitutes the breach of contract. Late delivery or non-delivery will be the breach of contract. Okay, it may be the normal breach, or in some cases, the breach concerned might constitute the so-called fundamental breach. We have not yet seen the rules about the fundamental breach yet, but for your information, okay, the CISG distinguish the breach into two types of breach. The first one is normal breach. The second one it is called the fundamental breach. Okay, I try to use the word FB, okay, for short. The breach can be the normal breach, or it can be in some cases a fundamental breach. The fundamental breach, it is a breach, put simply, the breach which is so serious, it will have this very severe effect on the other party. Okay, in fact, the rules with respect to a fundamental breach are set in article 25. We will see that later. But at the moment, I try to just let you know that what is meant by a fundamental breach. It is, put simply, it is a breach of the kind which is so serious that the other party, okay, will have nothing from the contract. Wait a minute. We have the exact wording which is set by the CISG. Okay, it is contained in Article 25, which we will see shortly. Okay, now remember when we talk about the obligations, the obligations regarding delivery. In addition to delivery of the goods, the CISG also talks about the handing over of the documents relating to the goods. With respect to the obligation to hand over documents relating to goods, we will have to see what is meant by a document relating to the goods. Well, normally the expression documents relating to goods, okay, that depicts any document which entitle the holder of the document to have the control over the goods. If you have that document, and when you have the document, you will have the control over the goods. That means that you have the document relating to the goods within the meaning of the CISG. It can be the bill of lading or BL. It can be the doc receipts. It can also be the warehouse receipts. So, in addition to the duty or the obligations to deliver the goods, the seller will also have to hand over the documents relating to the goods to the buyer. Otherwise, it will be the breach. Okay. So, with respect to the obligation to hand over documents relating to the goods, the CISG in Article 34 talks about the term, place, and the form of delivery of the documents. And as we can expect, okay, these matters will be focused on, or will be founded upon, the party autonomy rule. So the term, place, and the form of delivery of documents will be as required by the contract. But one more thing, which is very important, one more thing which is said by the CISG, and CISG, the places particular importance to this thing. It is the cure of any lack of conformity in the documents. If documents, if documents relating to goods, if the documents relating to the goods do not conform with the contract, that is the lack of conformity in the documents. Okay. Of course, when the documents relating to the goods do not conform with the contract, it is a breach. Right. But the CISG allows the seller to cure that breach first, to cure the lack of conformity in the documents. Okay, the rationale of curing or cure here, it is to give a chance to the seller, to just put right something which is wrong with respect to documents relating to goods. If the breach occurs, of course, when CISG sets remedies, there are, there are various remedies, okay, in the event of a breach, including the right to claim damages, okay, and also the right to, put the contract to an end, okay, i.e. the right to terminate or to avoid the contract. Normally, when the CISG talks about termination of the contract, okay, CISG uses the word avoidance. To terminate the contract, okay, it is to terminate contract, it is to avoid the contract. When the CISG uses the word avoid the contract, that is to terminate the contract. Okay, you will not see the word termination of the contract in the CISG, simply because the CISG uses the word to avoid the contract. Okay, so when the breach occurs with respect to the documents relating to goods, the CISG does not want the buyer to terminate or to avoid the contract. Okay, then the buyer's convenience. Okay, in this case, the CISG, many provisions of the CISG are founded upon the principle known as the preservation of the contract principle. This means that a contract must be preserved as much as possible. The rationale behind, the preservation of the contract, it is this. As we have, said in the very first lecture, remember, a contract for international sales of goods does not normally stand alone. It has some connection with some of the contracts. It is associated with, let's say, it is, connected with a contract of carriage. It is connected with a contract of payment. It may be also, associated with a contract of insurance. So if a contract of sale is allowed to come to an end, okay, it will have some impacts on other contracts as well. So that seems to be, economic loss. So that's why the CISG tries to preserve the contract of sale as much as possible, so that it will not have impacts, negative impacts on other related contracts. Okay, that is why many provisions, many rules, okay, which are contained in the CISG, they are focused on, or they are founded upon the preservation of the contract. They are designed in the direction of preserving the contract. When the seller, when the seller hand over the documents which do not conform with the contract, of course that is the breach of contract. Well, if it is the breach of contract, that means that it will give rise to remedies on the part of the buyer. In the worst case, the buyer may just terminate or avoid the contract. See, so the CISG does not want the contract to be avoided or to be terminated easily. The CISG gives the buyer a chance to correct, the lack of conformity in the document. Okay, the correction here, okay, we call correction here as cure. Okay, the cure of the lack of conformity in the documents. In fact, the cure can be found not only in the case of lack of conformity in the documents. The cure can also be found in relation to lack of conformity in the goods as well. Now, this the issue which we will turn to discuss shortly. Okay, but now at the moment we talk about the cure of the lack of conformity with respect to documents. Okay, if you look at Article 34. Article 34 talks about the right of the seller, the right to cure any lack of conformity in the documents, even though the documents relating to the goods do not conform with the contract. Maybe the documents which are delivered, which are handed over by the seller to the buyer, are not correct. They are not correct documents. In this case, the seller may just kill that non-conforming documents, maybe by handing over new documents and correct ones to the buyer. See, the significance of the right to kill is this: once the seller kills the lack of conformity in the documents, the seller has this right to kill as long as this right does not cause the buyer unreasonable inconvenience or unreasonable expense. This means that if the kill by the seller does not cause too much trouble, if we just try to explain this one in plain language, if the kill by the seller does not cause too much trouble to the buyer will have to allow the seller to kill. The buyer may not object. The buyer can't say no, okay? And when the seller kills without causing, the unreasonable inconvenience or unreasonable expense on the part of the buyer may not exercise any other remedies against the seller. The buyer may just claim damages. In addition to claiming damages, the buyer may not resort to any other claims or any other remedies against the seller. The buyer may not exercise the right to avoid or to terminate the contract. Can you see that? This is a way in which a contract can be preserved. See, so in a way, the right to kill, the seller's right to kill. This is an attempt to preserve the contract of sale as much as possible. See, so we can see the right to kill. Okay, the right to kill the lack of conformity in the goods, and the right to kill the lack of conformity in the documents relating to the goods. Okay, so as I have just brought to your attention, okay, when the seller expresses his intention to kill without causing unreasonable inconvenience or unreasonable expense to the buyer will have to accept that kill, even though the kill may just incur some loss on the buyer. The buyer may just claim damages, but the buyer may not exercise other remedies to the effect of destroying or bringing the contract to an end. Okay, so obviously the buyer may not exercise the right to avoid the contract, hence the preservation of a contract. See? Now we are coming to a very, very important thing, okay, the conformity of the goods. The conformity of the goods need to conform with the contract. Okay. Remember when we talk about the obligation to deliver the goods? Remember, one of the issues which is important is the conformity of the goods. Okay, as it should. Okay, we will talk about the nature of conformity, and also we will talk about the tier of lack of conformity. And we will also talk about, the need to give notice of lack of conformity. If the goods do not conform with the contract, then the buyer has the duty to give notice of the lack of conformity in the goods to the seller. Otherwise, the buyer will have to suffer some loss. We will just turn to that later, okay? Now, with respect to the conformity of the goods, okay, what is the nature of conformity? We get very important language here, or a very important expression here, i.e. conformity of the goods or conformity in the goods, right? So we will look at the conformity in the goods, and also we will talk about the right to kill, the lack of conformity in the goods, and we will also talk about the duty to give notice of the lack of conformity in the goods. Okay, beginning with the nature of conformity. Okay. Well, when the CISG requires that the good be in conformity with the contract, okay, the conformity of the goods must be, okay, conformity in terms of quality, description, and packaging. The quality, description, and packaging must be as required by the contract. Of course, this is not surprising because this is focused on or founded upon the party autonomy rule or the freedom of contract rule. The party A and party B to this contract can just agree on the quality, description, and packaging, so that the quality, description, and packaging must conform with the contract. They must be as required by the contract. Okay, conformity in terms of quality, description, and packaging. It is addressed by Article 35.1. If you look at 35.1, it provides as follows. Okay. Before going further, let me just have a drink. First, have some tea. Okay. Today is indeed the Chinese New Year day. Okay, so I need to drink a lot of tea. Okay, Chinese tea indeed. Okay, so according to Article 35.1, the seller must deliver the goods which are of the quality, description, quality and description required by the contract, and which are contained or packaged in the manner required by the contract. So you can see the word required by the contract, see? Right, required by the contract. Right. So, everything here, everything in relation to the quality, description, and packaging must be as required by the contract. Okay, according to the freedom contract rule or the party autonomy rule. Okay, when the contract sets out, okay, the contractual quality, description, or packaging, and the quality, description, or packaging does not conform with the contractual requirement, that is, of course, a breach of contract. Right. It may be a normal breach or a non-fundamental breach, or in some cases where the breach in question is so serious, it is so detrimental, that may be also a fundamental breach. Okay, that we have, just now, that we have come across the word fundamental breach, or for short, I'm going to use the word FB. Okay, the criteria for determining FB or fundamental breach are set in Article 35. According to Article 35, if you look at the criteria, you have to pay attention to the criteria embodied in Article 35. Article 25 very well, because many provisions of the CISG makes use of the word fundamental breach. Okay. Now back to Article 35.1. If the quality, description, or packaging does not conform with the contract, then it may be a normal breach, or in some cases it may be a fundamental breach, or FB. Okay, FB will be constituted if the criteria under Article 25 are met. If we look at the wording, okay, of Article 35, we can digest the criteria later. Okay, I'm going to read the wording of Article 25 first. A fundamental a breach of contract committed. Okay, a breach of contract committed by one of the parties is fundamental. See, fundamental if it results in such detriment, okay, to the other party as substantially to deprive him of what he is entitled to expect under the contract, unless the party in breach did not foresee and a reasonable person of the same kind in the same circumstances would not have foreseen such a result. So from this, from this Article 25, we can see three criteria or three conditions for a fundamental breach. The first one is the detriment. The breach in question causes detriment to the other party, and secondly, okay, the detriment there, okay, that detriment must cause substantial deprivation of what the other party is entitled to expect under the contract. That means that it is so serious that the other party will have nothing or almost nothing. To use the language, okay, used by the CISG, the breach in question, okay, cause such detriment, and that detriment substantially deprive the other party of what he is entitled to expect under the contract. Okay, so this is the criteria number 2. What about the criteria number 3? The criteria number 3, it is seen in the later part of the provision, okay, of the Article 25. Okay, the third part, it is here. Okay, it is the condition with respect to foreseeability. Okay, foreseeability, this is the third requirement or the third condition. Okay, that means that such detriment, okay, such detriment is foreseeable or foreseen by the parties. Okay, which party? It is foreseen by the breaching party, and it is also foreseen by a reasonable person in the same circumstances. The breaching party, the party who is in breach, and a reasonable person in the same circumstances could foresee such detriment. Okay, so these are the three conditions for a fundamental breach. If these three criteria are not fulfilled, that means that the breach in question cannot be a fundamental breach. It may be just a normal breach. Okay, for one thing, we have not explored the significance of the fundamental breach yet. We have not yet explored the legal consequences in terms of remedies, or the remedies of the other party, remedies available to the other party in the case of a fundamental breach. But I just would like to tell you one thing, okay, at the moment. If the breach in question is a fundamental breach, then the other party may just exercise the right to avoid the contract. Remember, the word avoid is to avoid the contract, it is to terminate contract. A and B have made a contract of sale, and A, let's suppose that A is a seller. A is in breach. If the breach in question constitutes a fundamental breach, then B, the buyer, may just exercise the right to just avoid or terminate the contract. Okay, the rationale is that that the breach seems to be, the breach is very serious. So serious that the other party is substantially deprived of what he is entitled to expect under the contract. Okay, so in this case there is no reason for for allowing the contract to stand. Okay, so again, the criteria in Article 25, okay, they are very important to make the determination as to which bridge is just a normal bridge, which bridge is a fundamental bridge. Okay? Again, we now talk about conformity of the goods. If the goods do not conform with the contract, okay, either in the sense of quality, description, or packaging, then it is a breach. If it is a fundamental breach, then the remedies available to the buyer are also very, very significant, okay? To the extent that the other party may just bring the contract to an end, okay? Now we will see some examples of the lack of conformity in the goods, okay? In one case it is the sales of, in fact, the sale of raw plastic. The raw plastic was sold and was intended to be used for producing window blinds. You know, window blinds are normally used for what? For shading sunlight. You can just install window blinds, you know, the for your windows in order to prevent lights from coming in. Okay, so the contract of sale require, you know, the raw material. The contract of sale require the raw material to contain a level of, you know, a level of a specified percentage of the substance which could, you know, which could shed the sunlight very effectively. The thing is that the raw plastic which was delivered by the seller did not contain, you know, a specified level of this substance. The raw plastic which was delivered by the seller contained a lower percentage of, you know, a particular substance than what the contract required. So that, you know, when the raw plastic contained a lower percentage of this substance, that means that the window blinds which were produced could not shed sunlight quite effectively. So that, you know, that caused impacts on who? That's caused impact on the buyer, because, you know, the products which would be produced, okay, could not just shed sunlight very effectively, okay, because the raw plastic which was used for producing this did not conform with the contract. In this case, of course, it was the lack of conformity in the goods. Was that, you know, was that a normal breach or was that a fundamental breach? Okay. In this case, it was held that it was found that, okay, the breach in question constitutes just a normal breach, a non-fundamental breach. Okay, because, okay, the detriment which emerged from this breach, okay, was not to such extent that the other party, of course the buyer, was substantially deprived of what they were entitled to expect, okay, under the contract. Okay, it was not so serious that the buyer got nothing or almost nothing from the contract, when put simply. Okay, so that it was found that the breach in question was just a normal breach, not a fundamental breach. Okay. Now, in one more case, which is indeed drawn from, you know, the cloud case number 168. Okay. In this case, it was concerned with the sales of a used car. Okay. This used car did not conform with the contract in two respects. First, the age. Secondly, the use of the car. Okay. This car, it was found that this car has been licensed 2 years earlier than indicated in the document pertaining to the car. we can check the age of the car by looking at the document. The document say that it was licensed in that year, okay, but in fact that car had been licensed 2 years earlier than the indication, okay, made in the document, okay, pertaining to the car. That means that indeed, in fact, the car was older than what the parties, okay, that could see from the document, okay. And it was also found that the odometer did not state the full mileage. In fact, the car had been used quite a lot, but the odometer did not seem to be correct. The odometer did not state the full mileage. The buyer's judgment was under the buyer was under the impression, the buyer was in the belief that the car was not used for so many years. Okay? In fact, the car was not used so much, because the mileage as reviewed, okay, by the odometer seemed to be not so much. Okay, so but in fact, the odometer incorrectly state the full mileage. The car had been used for a longer distance than that. Okay, so in this case, the car, of course, the goods did not conform with the contract. Okay, the question which we have to determine is whether or not this breach constitute a normal breach or a fundamental breach. Okay, it was found that this breach constitutes just a normal breach, just a non-fundamental breach, not a fundamental breach. Okay, that's now in the other case. Okay, the last case, which provides examples of the non-fundamental breach. Okay. In this case, the case number 9241 in the cloud database, okay, so in this case it was concerned with the sales of what? The sales of potting soil. The contract required this potting soil to contain 40 kilograms of clay per cubic meter. The soil which turned out to be did not contain 40 kilograms of clay per cubic meter, so that the description or the quality did not meet the contractual requirements, so that it constitutes what? The lack of conformity. Of course, this constitutes the breach of contract. It was on sale here that this constitutes just a normal breach or a non-fundamental breach, rather than a fundamental breach. See, because what? Because the breach in question did not cause such statement to the buyer that the buyer was substantially deprived of what the buyer was entitled to expect under the contract, according to the criteria set in Article 25. Right. Now, let's have a look at an example of a fundamental breach, or the FB. Okay. Remember, the breach in question will constitute an FB only when it causes such detriment to the buyer that the buyer was substantially deprived of what he is entitled to expect under the contract. The breach must be so serious and cause such the serious detriment to the buyer. Right. In this case, it's for the sales of compressors. Compressors in this case would have to be used for producing air conditioners. The buyers bought compressors in order to use those compressors for the production of air conditioners. That means that if the compressors did not conform with the contract, it would be very serious, because the air conditioners which would be produced would be defective, or would be deficient as well. Right. In this case, when compressors had major defects, the compressors, the malfunction, the pressure here did not, have the quality agreed upon by the parties, so that they could not be used for producing, the quality air conditioners. In this case, it was this, lack of conformity was found to constitute an FB or a fundamental breach. Okay, because the conditions set forth in Article 25 were fully, they were fully fulfilled. Remember the three criteria. Remember, if we are back to the three criteria here. First, the breach causes detriment to the other party. Secondly, such detriment causes substantial deprivation of what the other party is entitled to expect under the contract, and also we need to have forcibility. Both the party in breach and a reasonable person in the same circumstances could foresee such detrimental result. Okay, so in this case, the case concerning the compressors turning out to be not in conformity with the contracts. Okay, when compressors would have to be used for the manufacture of air conditioners. Okay, so when the compressors were non-conforming, that would cause such serious detriment on the part of the buyer. The detriment to the extent that the buyer would be substantially deprived of what the buyer was entitled to expect under the contract. So that, okay, when this detriment, this serious detriment was also foreseen by the party in breach and by a reasonable person in the same circumstances, then the criteria set forth in Article 25 were simply fulfilled, so that it constitutes just an FB or a fundamental breach. Okay. Now the one, I think that a few more things, okay, which need to be said. Okay. Quantity. Well, okay, I think that we have a break first. Okay, after the break, then we are going to talk about the quantity. Quantity as part of the conformity. Remember when we talk about conformity? Okay, the goods must conform with the contract in the dimension of what? In the dimension of quality, quantity, description, and packaging. Okay. After the break, okay, we will talk about the quantity as part of conformity. Okay. Now we have a lecture for about 1 hour and 20 something minutes. Okay, I think that I am going to just call upon the break. Okay, for about 10 minutes, and after that we are back to just continue the lecture on on the lack of conformity in the goods and the remaining issues. Okay, see you soon after the break.